Hello, everyone. We're happy to be here tonight and to be sharing this nutrition talk with you tonight. We are the dietitians here at Sequoia Wellness. My name is Emily Workman.
And I'm Chris Sellers.
So we're excited today to talk about this topic. This is something we picked because it's very common during, this time of year. Typically, we're looking a lot at diets, and that's in, a lot in the news and in social media and pretty much all over the place. And as dietitians, a lot of times we're thought of as the food police, but really we like to encourage folks to ditch that diet mentality. And so tonight we wanted to talk about some of the amazing things that can happen when you do ditch the diet mentality. And so looking at that, kind of to start off, well, what is this diet mentality? Well, it's very pervasive throughout society. Dieting is restricting oneself to small amounts or special kinds of food in order to lose weight. So thinking about that diet mentality, there's lots of rules, there's lots of, certain times, certain, just all these things that you have to do, just a lot of rules and very rigid. So that whole mentality surrounding that does lead to a lot of problems. So when we as dietitians, even though diet is in dietitians, we really aren't putting anyone on a diet ever. What we're looking at is a lifestyle change, a healthy, positive relationship with food, where you can be nourishing your body, fueling your body. And one of the things we as dietitians can do is help people be able to break free from the diet mentality, which can be really oppressive and have a lot of negative effects. So some of the effects of dieting, dieting just doesn't work. So Chris, you want to talk about some of those?
Yes. So I was just thinking of the word diet. Like if we ask someone, one of our clients, tell us about your diet, we don't expect them to say, well, my diet is the South Beach diet, or my diet is
Atkins or
whatever. When we're asking that question for us, it's basically, what do you eat most often on a daily basis? So we have a much different idea of what diet is, but dieting is something that we are always asked about because there's always a new diet coming out. And we kind of like to think of them as fad diets. And I love this little graphic. Most people would look at it and say, the woman is maybe slightly overweight and then she loses weight and then she regains weight. But I look at the facial expressions because this is how, the way we feel about ourselves is so important. And you can see she's fairly happy and then she's real happy because of the great weight loss. But then there's the after effect. And this is why dieting has become such an obstacle to us as dietitians, because we know that most of these diets are too restrictive, for one thing. And we know that when something is restrictive, you're more tempted to do it, and you don't feel good about doing it because you feel that all these rules and restrictions are not the way you want to live. A lot of times these diets are not healthy because when they restrict a food group or they restrict the amount of calories, they're not promoting good health. So that's another obstacle.
Can I just interject with that unhealthy thing? I always tell any of my clients that I work with, I say, first and foremost, I'm a medical professional. So my goal is your health. And so I think that's another thing that's, different as a dietitian versus just maybe, somebody else that's trying to help you lose weight, whoever that may be, whether it's your friend on social media or, the checkout stand or, anywhere else that you could be getting great, this dieting advice. As a dietitian, we're medical professionals and your health is what we're working for. So even if we're looking at weight loss, we're looking at weight loss for health. So
and the other kind of outshoot of that healthy diet is that a healthy diet promotes health. And so when you're healthy and you feel good, you're more likely to stick to an eating plan that's going to have long-term results. It's easier for you to do some of the things some of the hard work that you have to do to change your body composition. So we love it when our clients come back in one of our programs and say, well, I just really feel better doing it this way. And that's what a healthy diet should do for you. You should feel good, even though you might be restricting, maybe you're doing the hard work of exercising more,
You're
staying on
working on
plan,
tracking, whatever it may be.
whatever, you should feel good. You should feel healthy. And a lot of these diets, because they're restrictive, are difficult to maintain long-term.
They're restrictive, there's so many rules, there's just,
Right.
yeah.
And then that promotes that feeling of deprivation. And that deprivation can come from two different things. It could either be that you're feeling deprived because you can't have that wonderful special food, that you want to have occasionally. And we really work hard to help you, unless it's really an unhealthy food. There's ways to fit that into a healthy eating plan, even when you're trying to lose weight. So that's one deprivation. That's more of like an emotional deprivation, that you feel like you can't have this thing that you really love to eat because it should be pleasurable. Secondly, the deprivation can be from not enough calories. And this kind of goes towards the next point of starvation mode. When your body doesn't get enough calories, its safeguard is to increase your appetite because it knows it needs a certain amount of calories. So when starvation happens, your body's response is, let's increase the appetite hormones so that my person can get the calorie they need to be able to live. So starvation mode is not a good thing, and that comes from a diet plan that maybe is too restrictive in calories. Also, special foods. For a while, special foods might be exciting. Special guidelines might be exciting, especially if you believe that it's going to cause weight loss, or even if you are seeing quick weight loss. Who wouldn't be happy? Like the second girl, she's super happy that she saw the pounds come off. So yeah, these special foods in the beginning work because they're different, but in the long run, how is this going to fit into your lifestyle? Can you afford them? Is it something that you want to be eating for the rest of your life? So
even things like, well, I went over to so-and-so's house for dinner and they didn't have any of the, I couldn't eat any of the stuff they made, or I had to, and so there's a lot of those types of things. So you're limited. You can't go to the social event or you can't go out to eat with friends or things like that.
And we spend a lot of time on those lifestyle changes and how to make, how do we take the food you're eating now? How can we adjust them, change them, fit them into your lifestyle? So we talk a lot about that, and that is really the hard work of long-term weight loss. And then the negative impact on metabolism. When you do starve yourself and go below a certain level of maintenance calories, your metabolism also shifts into down gear. So now you're eating less food, but you're not seeing results because now your metabolism is lower. So that's a very negative impact. And we see this a lot when people come in and say, well, I'm not eating as much as I used to, but nothing's happening. I'm trying to exercise and I don't see any results. And this all kind of ties into that impact on metabolism that we don't want to happen.
And that has to do with that picture there about that and the other bullet point above there about regaining more weight. It's because of multiple factors that tend to lead into that, but one of it is because of the negative impact on metabolism that period of that fad diet you negatively impacted your metabolism. So then when you were going back to just normal eating or transitioning back into normal eating, your metabolism is at a lower level, and so it's going to regain more weight than what you lost.
And the last point, we want your diet, even if it is a diet for weight loss, and I'm using diet in the very healthy way of a healthy diet, balanced diet that supports weight loss. We want it to also support an active lifestyle. I want to say most dietitians, but I can say for sure Emily and I really believe that it's a full circle for us. We know that to be healthy, you need to be active. There's a lot of research-based guidelines on how many minutes you need to spend per week to keep your heart healthy. So we want those calories to include either a minimal amount of exercise that you might start with, and then eventually support that active lifestyle. It's going to help you keep your weight healthy and normal. So for us, we don't want you crawling around on so few calories that you can't even do your normal daily activities. We don't want you going to the gym and say, that's it for the day. I can't even, do the laundry because I went to the gym today for an hour. We want to build enough calories in there because we want you to have that active lifestyle, or at least get to it.
And that active lifestyle, that's, again, we're looking at long-term. The diet mentality is focused just on those short-term results. But we're looking at long-term health and activity, whether it's related to, a diet mentality is I exercise to lose weight. But we're looking at it in the different stance of that active lifestyle and how that has to do with your overall health. So yes, it can contribute to, be a factor in weight loss, but we're looking at, we want to support that active lifestyle for all those health benefits of that. And that's something we want to be able to keep doing, whether you're trying to lose weight or maintain weight or whatever. And if you're not getting enough, if you're not fueling your body properly, you're not going to be able to be active. Or I see this too, where people will come to the gym, but they're just like, so, they're lacking in fuel, that their workout is down. They just are not able to they're there in the gym for an hour, but they're not getting as much out of it just because they aren't fueled properly to be able to, their body's like, wait, no, let's hold back. I don't want to use up all that energy because I don't have enough.
And actually that picture, the more I look at it, there's the mental aspect of like, I never want anyone to feel like, oh, I tried this eating plan and I failed. There's no way that we would allow you to fail a healthy eating plan if you follow it. I have to say that because some people don't follow it, but we work with you until you can see those results and those health benefits if you work with us. And it is a mental thing. The way people feel when they try a fad diet and then they start gaining, it really does things mentally to you. It affects motivation, it affects self-image. Fad diet, we don't want you to be a fad diet failure. That's kind of a simple way of saying it.
So ditch the diet mentality. Yes. It's our new tagline. Don't be a fad diet failure. Ditch the diet mentality. So that leads right into this. So with proper retraining and positive self-talk, so I love that because that retraining is like a kind of a physiological retraining of your body. And then that positive self-talk, that motivation, that very positive mental relationship or mental energy, both pieces are really important, but you can find a healthy eating style that works for you. You can get to and maintain a healthy weight, your healthy weight, what's healthy for you and your lifestyle. And you can develop a positive relationship with food. That's, again, one of those factors that the diet mentality is really not about a positive relationship with food. And I love this little graphic here. You know what's healthier than kale? Having a good relationship with food. And really, when we're looking at health, having that positive relationship with food, that's a long-term health benefit because you're going to be using food to nourish and fuel your body properly. And that type of health is going to be physical health and, like Chris was saying, emotional health as well.
And I think really looking at this is so much a part of our practice as dietitians. I think from the outside looking in, you think, well, a dietitian is going to give me that diet that's going to help me, get healthy and lose weight. And that's where it stops. But you forget about the hard work of making those habit changes. And I love the fact that ditching the diet mentality is not like a immediate thing. It's a process that happens over time, and we can give you the support so that you can practice those things that get you there. So the process and the practice are so key in there, and this is so much of what we do in individual counseling.
Right, and I think that's, again, a thing that typically people are looking at a dietitian and seeing food police. Oh, you're the food police. You're the one that's going to tell me here's good foods and here's bad foods. You're the one that's going to tell me my rules and everything. And we're actually the opposite of that, where we want you to have a positive relationship with food, a healthy eating style, and we help you get there in that process. So a lot of support and a lot of practice because it is a process.
So some of the benefits of ditching the diet mentality and getting on track with that healthy eating plan, you start obsessing less about food. We don't promise that you will never obsess about food, but as your habits change and as you eating this healthy diet that is so nourishing to body and mind, you will see that though you start obsessing less about food. And with that, you're going to see fewer cravings. because your body starts responding to the internal hunger cues, the satiety cues, which a balanced, healthy diet will give you. And it doesn't happen immediately. Like we said, it's a process. We also see a decrease in overeating and binging on foods. And there's a lot to be said about this, that we could, like Emily and I have talked about this, we could spend so much time on all of this, on the emotional eating and overeating. But the healthy diet goes a long way in decreasing some of these cravings, some of these urges to overeat and binge on foods. When you start understanding how food is really the fuel for your body, it goes a long way to helping with those issues.
And really, I feel like the diet mentality,
Promotes
it almost promotes
Mhm.
overeating and binging, again, which is another one of those factors that leads to regaining more weight.
Right. And the food guilt is such a big issue. It's all around us. People know that if people hear that you're on a diet and then they see you having a cupcake at a birthday celebration, you get looks. You're like, wow, it's just, there's just so much around us that is associated with food guilt. And when you develop the positive relationship with food, you minimize some of that guilt. And when you minimize some of the guilt, you also minimize some of the stress of making changes. And that makes the changes a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Some stress and pressure. And again, that diet mentality with its very strict rules, I mean, it's kind of set up to say there's good and then there's bad. And so if you choose something that's on that bad list, whether it's a food group or eating at a certain time or eating a certain if you're doing something like that, well, you're going to feel guilty because you just did something bad. But again, we're looking at, let's ditch that diet mentality. Let's look for this healthy eating lifestyle and this positive relationship with food. And let's get rid of that guilt. Let's let it be a positive experience.
And the end point, I don't really know if there is an end point. It's always a process and you always have to keep working at it. But at some point, if you do let go of some of these guilt and obsessions, some of these things that are really obstacles to stabilizing your weight, you will see over time a stabilization of your body weight, hopefully at a healthy body weight when you do these practices.
Right, you're avoiding that, that image again a couple of slides ago of going up and down that yo-yo term that we're familiar with. So a lot of benefits. So let's dive a little bit more into each one of those. So again, one benefit when we ditch the diet mentality, we experience decreased obsessing about food. And, when we can't have something, we tend to put it on a pedestal and we think about it all the time. That's just this mental,
exercise.
Yeah, that's just what our mind does. And
it's human.
And, that's one of those things that like feeling deprived and then we think about it all the time. And oh my goodness, it would taste so good and I miss it so much and whatever. And so your mind is spent thinking about it. And even if it's not related to something that you can't have, I feel like the diet mentality also, you're constantly going, okay, so is this good? Is this bad? What am I supposed to do? I need to make sure I'm following these rigid rules. I need to measure this, And, but what we want to look at is being able to have unconditional permission to eat and enjoy your food. And there's a few words in that I just feel are so key. One, unconditional permission to eat. Diet mentality, there's permission to eat at certain times or with certain foods or certain,
yes.
And so this is unconditional permission to eat and to enjoy your food. Again, the diet mentality becomes so much just about losing weight. You feel that healthy relationship with food, you're enjoying your food. Food becomes just food. It's not this on a pedestal, something like love or hate relationship. It's just food. It's a source of fuel, a source of nourishment, and a source of enjoyment.
And when you're trying to restrict like that, it's kind of like negative energy. You're still spending a lot of energy feeling guilty, a lot of energy feeling deprived, a lot of energy feeling like you're failing at something. And what we want is that energy to be put to good use, which is making these habit changes. And that less dependence on food, it's not an all or nothing thing. Yes, you're still going to have a craving. You still might want to do stress eating. You might, but you open up your world to more things that you can do to relieve that stress or to take care of those needs for relaxation, for enjoyment. And I think this picture just says it all.
Right, this picture, I mean, we picked this one. You might look at this and go, what does that have to do with obsessing about food? Well, exactly, because this woman here is not, sitting over here like stressing and obsessing about her diet rules and restrictions or whatever. She's just able to enjoy it, and she's able to find other ways, other tools for coping and rewards, whether it's being outdoors in the sunshine, whether it's, having your fur baby that you love on and that loves on you, or, being active. All of those different things are other types of rewards. Whereas with the diet mentality, our world can become so
Very
narrow
focused.
And then food becomes that only reward, like I'm going to have a cheat day, or I'm going, whatever, I'm allowed this one thing and I'm going to do that. And so it's just becomes, that's the one coping or the one reward you depend on. Whereas again, when you can broaden that vision, you ditch that diet mentality, you're not obsessing about the food all the time. You have more options open to you. You're not dependent on food as your only source of
it just
coping.
Broadens your perspective, and you just feel like, hey, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right things. It's difficult, but you start feeling it kind of ties back to the very physiological, healthy diet effect of making you feel better about yourself, more energetic. And so maybe everything opens up to you that you can do other things, that the diet is not your main focus of your life. You can still enjoy activities and stay on track and kind of do it all.
Another one is decreasing intense cravings. I'll go over the science behind cravings, and Christy can talk a little bit more about fueling.
Okay.
But the science behind the cravings, so it's important to understand that there is science behind this. There's reasons why we crave it. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of diets tend to cut out carbs, or carbs just get a bad rap. Because we tend to associate carbohydrates with weight gain or preventing us from losing weight. However, when we cut out too many carbs, the body responds as if it were in starvation mode, because it's that body's best source of fuel. It's like, wait, I'm not getting the right fuel that I need. I'm going to slow down and conserve my energy instead of burning through. Your body and your brain, remember though, that those simple carbs, man, they give you energy fast. So when your diet is restricted in carbohydrate, whether it's because you're overall on a diet that restricts all calories, whether you're on a diet that's cutting out carbs or certain carbs, the body is low in energy. And we hear that so often from people that's probably the number one common thing is people are just low in energy. And your body knows those simple carbs, that's going to give me energy fast. If you're in a deprived starvation mode, your body wants fast energy. It's going to say, hey, that simple sugars, those are going to give you energy fast. Crave those, get those. And that's when we see those cravings increase. So anytime there's that diet, we're on that diet that's restricted in overall calories or in, carbs, foods that are, have that carbohydrate, our cravings increase because our body is in that starvation mode.
So as far as fueling metabolism, I mean, this could be a whole separate presentation, and we love to do this. But basically, when people start talking about carbs, we present this my plate, and we'll say, well, but look, there's carbohydrates in fruit. There's carbohydrates in some vegetables, some more than others. There's carbohydrates in grains, but if you use unrefined whole grains, there's also fiber there that slows down the sugar response. There's carbohydrates in dairy. And yet our body needs all of these food groups. So fueling your metabolism properly for good energy and good balance and to reduce some of the cravings really means achieving a balance in your meals. And there's so many different ways to do this. This is just like a representation of, what we're striving for, and it's a useful one. But basically, we need carbohydrates throughout the day. Let's just say we eat 3 meals like this, ideally, which no one does. But you can see that carbohydrates have to be a part of that. But they, not so much simple carbohydrates like sugar, but things like fruit and some vegetables and whole grains and dairy, low-fat dairy. Those are all sources that we need throughout the day. And when you balance your meals in this way, you balance your blood sugars, and then the cravings calm down. So that's just kind of the balanced approach to eating carbohydrates.
And that's one of those reasons, again, why those fad diets fail. Like Chris was saying, you know, people are on them and they feel so deprived or so restricted. Those cravings are high. The body is scientifically, you know, for scientific reasons, physiological reasons, saying, eat those foods. And so not just mentally because we put them on a pedestal, but also physiologically. And so then we go, gosh, this is not a happy way to be living, where I feel so deprived all the time. Gosh darn it, I'm going to go do this. And then you feel guilt. And then, you know, and
vicious cycle.
It just talking about it, I'm like, oh, this just does not feel positive. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to ditch the diet mentality and get rid of that feeling all the time. I mean, I know so many people that are like, oh my gosh, that's just been my life for 20 years. It's just that stress and that cycle and that up and down, and being able to calm down those cravings. And I know a lot of people will say to me, they'll be a little nervous. Like, I mean, how many times have we heard, Chris, where we've given somebody an eating plan and they're like, oh my gosh, many carbs, I can have this many grains. And we're like, yes. And they get worried that they're going to gain weight, or that they're going to just start eating and never stop. But when you, like Chris was saying, if you're appropriately fueling your metabolism,
which is individual for every person,
when you're appropriately doing that, your body doesn't need to send those like craving signals. And so you are able to eat appropriately without that, you know, desire to overeat or binge or, you know, things like that.
And even whatever people call cravings, one response we often get is, oh my gosh, I'm eating these things and I don't feel hungry anymore. Whatever that definition of hunger is to the person, they just feel like when they eat this balance, it's like a revelation. All of a sudden, I'm not as hungry, which usually means I'm not craving more food than I need. So it's kind of a nice result of achieving that balance. So, responding to internal hunger and satiety cues, your body is really good to responding to these cues that signal hunger. And some of those cues would be stomach growling, lack of energy, shakiness, which some of us feel like after we work out, which means we need to refuel, and even that hangry feeling, which is kind of a mental feeling, but it really is physiological. And so when we have restricted diets and rules, a lot of times we override those cues, and our body, we don't know how to respond to them. We can't respond to them. When we retrain our body, we can come back to a point where we're fueling it with the amount of calories, nutrients, amount of food that we really need. So part of this journey of habit change and getting to this healthier diet is retraining your body. And this is, it's a step-by-step process, but with the balanced diet, you are going to see those changes.
Those, when you have those restrictions, or those rules of that diet mentality, either it's you feel physically hungry, but you're like, nope, my diet doesn't allow it. So you override that internal cue. Well, then that's going to skew that internal cue. Your body's going to be like, oh, well, I guess I just won't signal that anymore. This is oversimplification.
Right.
But physiologically, this is, happening where your body's going, oh, well, I guess I won't signal that. I have a lot of people who, this isn't really necessarily diet mentality, but who skip breakfast and they're like, I'm not hungry. Like, well, your body probably does need some fuel, but you've overridden that cue for so many years that it stopped signaling. It's like, well, forget it. Like if we say something, we say that, or telling somebody something and they don't listen to us over and over and over again, I'm going to stop telling them.
Yeah.
And so being able to, that when we're in all those diets, all those rules and restrictions and everything, it's really skewing those cues. So that is one reason and one caution where we're saying being able to have the support and assistance of a dietitian is really helpful, because if a lot of times people, if they just have been in and out of diets for a long time, and then they go, you know what, I'm done, I'm gonna eat healthy, I'm gonna listen to my internal cues, they might not be able to do it yet. We need to retrain the body, because right now the body's still responding on this like totally skewed, metabolism. And so being able to sit down with a dietitian where we can look at, all right, physiologically, what does the body need? That's that retraining process. Because I know there have been people that have, said, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do a diet. I'm just going to listen to my body. And it's not worked. And that's why, because your body from doing that is not in a trusted state at that
Yes.
point.
And I like the hangry term. It's kind of relatively new. And I think it comes from that ultimate override when you think all these other things that I have to do this morning are more important than me grabbing a simple breakfast. And then before you know it, you're almost at lunchtime and you're like not in a good mood. You're snapping at people and we're so busy, we just don't even relate it back to, oh, maybe I'd feel better if I fueled my body and mind in the morning. So I love the term because it's like the ultimate override of what our body physiologically needs. Our mind is saying, I'm so busy, I've got to do, and absolutely, we can do that. We are very good at overriding and multitasking. But then you get to that state and like a lot of times people like have to be told, well, maybe you should. It's kind of like the Snickers commercial,
right.
But not the Snickers.
Yeah.
But it really it's a mental, it's a perfect example of how your mind needs the fuel also.
And your body starts to make signals that will be heard. But again, we misinterpret those cues, and after overriding them or whatever for so long, we misinterpret them. So, but that retraining, that's possible. And like we said, the body and the mind to be able to respond to those internal hunger and satiety cues instead of external cues, whether they're the cues of the diet, the cues of, your neighbor, the cues of your work schedule, the cues of your emotions. Those are all external cues. Well, your body knows your body best.
How many times have we heard like, I just don't have time for breakfast, or I just don't have time for lunch, or, like, really?
Our body needs that.
Right.
So being able, and that's, again, we talk about that positive, and it is very empowering to fuel the body and, have the body respond like, yes, I am being properly fueled. And that's part of that. I feel good when I'm doing this. It feels good.
And I feel like, that sounded a little judgmental because it's not like I haven't done, I've done that. I've skipped breakfast because I was late for an appointment, and we work and we forget lunch. And so it's a very human thing to do in our busy lives and everything we're going through, but your body kind of still needs that fuel.
Yeah, I think the difference is that the diet mentality, it like encourages you to ignore those, or it keeps you in a state where you are ignoring them daily, day after day after day while you're on the diet. Another one here, another benefit of ditching that diet mentality. We talked about this a little bit, but decreasing the overeating or the binging on foods. We talked about those. Chris mentioned how it's kind of twofold. There's that mental part of it, those forbidden foods that are up on that pedestal. We don't get to eat those forbidden foods, whatever it may be, whether it's carbs because those are cut out, whether it's, fat because I cut that out, whether it's sugar because I cut that out, whether it's, I don't know, whatever it may be. They're forbidden, and then we get one and we just overeat because we're so excited we haven't had it so long. Or it's also physiological where you're just lacking in fuel. And so your body is going to overcompensate. If your body's in starvation mode, let's say you're crossing the Sahara Desert and you come to an oasis, you don't just kind of like pick a couple of, one coconut and a few leaves or whatever, you're going to grab it all up. And that's what your body's doing. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on here, but I haven't been receiving adequate fuel. And now there's some fuel, so let's take it all.
Right.
So there's a lot to that.
I love this picture because, you look at this picture and you say, well, of course, pasta is not a diet food in quotation marks. Well, is it pasta, or is that the fact that there's like 6 portions of pasta there? And this is the typical restaurant portion, and you're getting your money's worth and you think everybody's eating this much. And so all of a sudden pasta has become like a forbidden food because, no, we can't eat pasta, but is it because maybe we need to rebalance that plate and add some vegetables and add a little protein and, so the forbidden foods, the non-diet foods, they're part of that diet mentality, but there's so much more to that.
Right, and when you reject that diet mentality, those foods end up losing their mystical power, whether it's something like pasta that you're like, oh, it's like mystically so bad, or it's that cupcake that's just so like, heavenly or whatever. And it is really empowering when you ditch the diet mentality. You are in charge of what, when, and how much you eat. Not that diet book, not that diet plan, not the social media, not the celebrity, not the, whatever it may be. But you are in charge of what, when, and how much you eat. And honestly, we're talking about internal cues. We're talking about your body. And who knows better what their body needs than you? And so that is a very empowering aspect of ditching the diet mentality and finding this positive relationship with food as well.
So we love this picture because we both like cake, but this kind of speaks to the good and bad foods. A diet mentality would tell you, of course I can't have cake, and if I do have cake, I'm going to feel so bad about it, and maybe I'll even go to that all or nothing conclusion that, oh, I had cake, so I might as well just get off this diet for the, it's just so much a part of it, this good and bad food. But with that non-diet approach, we don't talk about good or bad foods. Food is just food. It can nourish our bodies, but it can also nourish our minds and souls and promote a social gathering, feeling good with your friends and having that cake and not feeling like you can't have whatever portion you choose to have. So, we want to eliminate the guilt because it's really a waste of energy that could be spent towards more positive changes.
Absolutely. And then like we talked about stabilizing the body weight, that's another, through the process, benefit of ditching the diet mentality, because we talked about that diet mentality does promote a lot of the yo-yo dieting, where there's that quick weight loss followed by regain of the weight lost or maybe even more than what was lost. And again, like we talked about, that is having a negative effect on metabolism. And I feel like that's what this roller coaster is like. I picture myself riding this roller coaster and it's just like, whoa. And it just, again, it just feels so off balance and unsteady. And that's the way your body physiologically is that's the experience it's having as you're on a diet, off a diet, losing weight, regaining weight, losing weight, regaining weight. And we want to be able to not have that happening with your weight, but we want a stabilized, healthy weight. And that's what that non-diet, ditch the diet mentality approach. We're looking at long-term lifestyle changes for your health. And yes, so achieving a healthy weight is part of your health, but also being able to have the nutritious fuel, more energy, and feeling better. So all over, across the board, being able to have that stabilized body weight and all those different effects that it can have.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you just look at that track and think of it as blood sugars, our bodies work best when we have those little rolling hills where they can deal with the little ups and downs of blood sugar that even a balanced diet will give you, whether you're diabetic or not. But our bodies really do not respond well to those large increases. So it just describes it perfectly. Mm-hmm. The healthy weight range is somewhere in between where you get those rolling, where our bodies can respond to that.
Right. So again, like we said, the main point as dietitians, we are always hoping to empower our clients as we're working with them. With just the message that you can do it. This is achievable. And above the, hey, you can lose weight. We're looking for more than that. We want more than that for you. We want you to be able to have this, all those benefits that we just talked about, ditching that diet mentality. But again, it's really key we can help. So pairing this, ditching that diet mentality with some nutrition education, with a dietitian where we can be able to sit down and help you retrain your body and properly balance and achieve the right, or, fuel yourself properly. Again, that can really, you can do that, you can achieve that, and you have that empowered feeling like I was talking about a little bit ago, where you're not only nourishing your body and you're nourishing your mind and soul.
Yeah, and the behavior change is the difficult part of the process of weight loss. And by weight loss, we mean weight loss that you can sustain, and it happens over time. And this is where we spend a lot of our counseling time just helping you find that balance, number one, and then supporting those changes when you feel like, am I doing the right thing? Is this taking too long? Is the scale doesn't show it, but maybe your body feels better. Maybe the inches show it. We try to bring that into our practice because we know how difficult it is. So it's a process it's your journey, but we are there to support it.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of just a side little message that we as dietitians are always trying to promote, just letting people know that we are so much more than food police. It's not nutrition like interrogation, it's nutrition counseling.
Right.
Where we are really talking about a lot of these overall changes and the mental and physiological aspects of fueling and nourishing your body properly. So, even from this presentation, hopefully you were able to learn some of the benefits of how a dietitian can help, what a dietitian can do for you or someone else along with understanding some of the benefits of ditching the diet mentality. And we love this picture. We just really want everybody to feel like the freedom of being able to ditch that diet mentality, and that's something we're here to help with.
And feel good and have the energy to, live an active life, do everything you want to do. So I love that picture too.
We appreciate you joining with us tonight. If you have any questions, you can always email us. If you email us at nutrition@sequoia-wellness.com, that comes to both Chris and myself. Email us any questions you may have. If you're maybe interested in working with one of the dietitians, if you want to be able to ditch the diet mentality, we're here to help. Or if you also have a topic for a future program that you'd like to learn more about, we love being able to get your questions and incorporating them into talks. So email us anytime, nutrition@sequoia-wellness.com.